The river roared like a beast with 1,000 voices. Its gray, churning waters tore through the land, splitting families from their lives, from hope itself. In the rainy season, it was more than a river, it was a killer, and on this morning it had claimed its latest victims. In the small village of Cam, desperation hung thick in the air. On one side, mud-slicked houses clung to the banks. On the other, the world markets, hospitals, schools, life itself was just out of reach. Every morning, the villagers faced the same impossible choice: risk everything in fragile wooden canoes, or starve slowly while staring at the life they could almost touch. Then came the tragedy that would shake the heart of the community forever. A boat carrying 20 souls, mothers, farmers, children, was ripped apart by the river's fury, capsized, swept away. Dreams drowned before they even had a chance to bloom. Among the survivors, huddled in the mud, was Kofi, a 10-year-old boy. His small frame shook as he clutched a soggy bag of onions, his mother's last hope for their survival. He wasn't crying. He had gone beyond tears. His eyes were empty, staring at the river that had taken everything. And then, the convoy arrived. Not the usual parade of flashing lights, pomp, or speeches. Not politicians behind glass and luxury. This time it was different. Ibrahim Traoré, the youngest president on the continent, stepped into the mud, boots sinking deep into the wet earth. No suit, no fanfare. Just him. Just a man who understood that power meant nothing if it didn't touch the people. Security tried to pull him back. "Sir, it's dangerous. The current." He ignored them. He crouched beside Kofi, letting the silence speak louder than the roaring river. He looked at the boy, the onions, and then at the river that separated a people from their own destiny. Kofi whispered, voice fragile like a cracked shell. "They promised a bridge. The last president, the one before. Where did the money go?" Traore didn't give a speech. His eyes hardened. Sorrow turned to fire. Fury. The kind that bends rules, defies warnings, and commands action. He stood. He scanned the impossible expanse of the river. Then he turned to his advisors, who paled like ghosts at the sight of his resolve. "There is no time for reviews, no time for studies." Kofi's mother couldn't wait 3 years. The people of Cam don't live in reports. They live here. Now. Right there, in the mud. Traore summoned the army's engineering corps. "Pack your bags. You're not leaving until there's a bridge. Until every child, every mother, can cross safely." News of the order hit the capital like lightning. Panic. Rules, grants, consultations, all meant to slow action, crumbled in the wake of his decision. A wealthy businessman arrived the next day, smooth and calculating. "The soil is too soft. The economy." Traore didn't flinch. He leaned against a truck, voice low but sharp. "I'm not worried about your profits. I'm worried about kids who drown while you count coins." The audit that followed revealed the truth. Funds for this bridge had been allocated 3 times in the past decade. Not a single stone laid. Not one life saved. Until now. Corruption ran deep, like a silent disease eating the country from the inside. But Ibrahim Traoré didn't care about politics. He cared about action. Concrete. Steel. Lives saved. He set up camp right by the river in a simple tent. No palace, no luxuries. At 4 a.m. he was awake, shoulder to shoulder with soldiers and villagers, passing buckets of gravel, lifting beams, breaking his back in the mud. Leadership, he showed, wasn't about giving orders from a marble throne. It was about getting your hands dirty with your people. When the first massive steel beams arrived, the so-called civilized world began to panic. Headlines screamed, "Reckless populist bankrupts nation on vanity project." Analysts predicted disaster. They didn't know Ibrahim's secret weapon, something no economist could measure. The first pillar was lowered into the river, and suddenly, everything that could go wrong did. The World Bank froze the credit lines. Cement shipments stopped mid-ocean. Foreign consultants packed their blueprints and vanished into the night. The site went eerily silent. Only the wind whispered through the half-built skeletons of steel. For a heartbeat, it looked like the critics had been right. Another African ghost project, abandoned to rust and sun. But Ibrahim didn't panic. He didn't beg. He didn't fly to Paris or New York to plead for a loan. He climbed onto the airwaves and spoke to the nation. They think that by taking our money, they take our ability to build, he said, voice steady, unwavering. They think that without them we are nothing. But they forgot. We built their empires with our sweat. Now it's time to build our own. And then something incredible happened. It wasn't just money. It was people. Thousands of them. Farmers with their trucks arrived at dawn. Welders drove through the night from the city to volunteer. Women set up massive outdoor kitchens, cooking mountains of rice and stew to feed the army of hands shaping steel and stone. And there was Kofi, the boy who had lost everything. No truck, no tools, no money, just a heart too big to stay home. Each morning, he carried jug after jug of water, walking up and down the line, making sure no worker went thirsty under the merciless sun. When Traore saw Kofi struggling with the heavy load, he didn't send him away. He picked up a shovel and worked alongside him. Side by side, boy and president, hands in mud, hearts in sync. And in that moment, the site transformed. It wasn't just a construction zone anymore. It was a revolution of hope, a symphony of sweat, pride, and determination. When imported machines broke, blocked by sanctions and red tape, local mechanics refused to quit. They cannibalized old tractors, jury-rigged mining equipment, and MacGyvered their way past every obstacle. The bridge rose faster than anyone thought possible, fueled by adrenaline, pride, and the unshakable will of a people united. Experts in glass towers, thousands of miles away, could only stare. How was it moving forward with no funding, no consultants, no foreign aid? But the final challenge was yet to come. As the last central span was being lifted into place, the sky darkened. A bruised, ominous purple spread across the horizon, and the wind began to howl like a warning. The river, their relentless adversary, seemed to grow hungrier, more violent. Something was about to test not just the bridge, but every ounce of courage, every hand in the mud, every heart that had dared to dream. The birds stopped singing. The wind died down. A suffocating, heavy pressure hung over Cam. The villagers had felt this before. A silent warning that the Mahun River was about to awaken, and this time it was furious. No one moved. Even the dogs lay low, sensing the storm before it struck. But the people building the bridge, led by Traore, knew it was more than a storm. It was a test, a monstrous trial that would either cement their dream or wash it away into oblivion. Within 20 minutes, the rain started. Not as drops, but as a wall of water, blinding anyone standing more than a few feet away. The Mahun River, usually a lazy brown ribbon of water, transformed into a raging leviathan in 1 hour. It rose more than 2 meters, swallowing the makeshift scaffolds and roaring past the banks like a beast set free. For a long moment, the river gurgled behind them, birds beginning to return, the wind whispering through the still slick steel. Traore's eyes scanned the bridge, then the people sleeping and stirring around him. He thought of Kofi, of the mothers, the farmers, the soldiers, the welders, every hand, every tear, every drop of sweat. "You see this bridge?" he said finally, voice low, calm, and dangerous. "It is not just steel. It is our blood, our courage, our dignity. You cannot buy that. You cannot control it. You do not own it." The consortium man's smile faltered. He tried to respond, but words failed him. This was not a negotiation. This was a lesson. Leadership was not about money. It was about heart, resolve, and vision. Traore stood, boots sinking slightly into the mud, looking down the bridge at the river below. "We will maintain it ourselves. We built it, we will protect it, we will prosper from it, but on our terms." The people stirred awake, their eyes widening as the realization hit. They had done the impossible. Against corruption, against nature, against the world itself, they had triumphed. And their president had walked through the storm with them, not above them, not beyond them, with them. By midday, the storm had passed entirely. The river settled, the sun broke through the clouds, and the bridge gleamed like a promise forged in mud and sweat. The consortium retreated, humiliated, while the villagers celebrated quietly, knowing that this bridge was theirs in every sense that mattered. Kofi stood at the midpoint, looking at the flowing water below. The boy who had once lost everything now held a shovel in his small hands, proud, capable, part of something larger than himself. Traore approached, laying a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You see, Kofi? This is what courage builds." And in that moment, the Mahun River no longer seemed like a monster. It was a witness to the courage of one man, to the unity of a community, to the triumph of heart over despair. The bridge was more than steel and concrete. It was a symbol, a reminder, a lesson to the world. When leaders lead with courage and people act with heart, nothing, not storms, not corruption, not fear, can stop them. Traore looked across the river, eyes shining, voice echoing over the water. "This is just the beginning. Together we can build anything." The camera pans over the bridge, sunlight glinting off wet steel, villagers cheering, Kofi standing tall, and Traore watching over them. A figure of determination, compassion, and unstoppable resolve. The story of Cam, the Mahun River, and the bridge that should have been impossible is not just about construction. It's about hope, leadership, and the power of a people who refuse to surrender to fear. And as the credits roll, viewers are left with a single, resounding truth. Dreams are built by those who dare to get their hands dirty. And no storm, no suit, no system can ever take that away. The man in the tailored suit opened the briefcase, revealing the contract like a predator revealing its prey. The offer was simple but devastating: 50 years of toll rights. Every farmer, every mother, every child would pay just to cross the river. A gold pen was extended. "Sign here, and they promised to reimburse the state for all construction costs, plus 20% profit. Walk away a hero with a budget surplus. A win-win." Traore picked up the document, eyes scanning the fine print. Around him, the workers gathered silently, tension crackling like electricity in the air. Then they saw it, the toll fee structure. It was in dollars, not the local currency. Kofi's father, who had labored for weeks in the scorching sun, would have to surrender half his onion harvest just to reach the market. The bridge, built with the sweat and blood of the community, would no longer be a path to freedom. It would be a debt trap forged in steel. Traore looked at the man, then at the bridge. Finally, he called Kofi over. "Hold this," he said, passing the heavy contract to the 10-year-old. The worker's eyes widened as silence fell. Traore turned to the suit, voice calm but piercing. "You see this boy? His mother died trying to cross this river because she couldn't afford the boat fare. And now you want me to charge him to walk across a bridge he helped build with his own hands." He didn't yell. He didn't dramatize. He tore the contract in half, then in half again, letting the pieces flutter down into the mud like autumn leaves. "This bridge doesn't belong to the banks. It doesn't belong to your consortium. It doesn't even belong to me. It belongs to him." The man's face drained of color. He snatched his briefcase, hissed, "You're making a mistake. Without our certification, no insurance company will cover this. You're on your own." Traore's reply was simple. "We've always been on our own. That's why we're winning." The consortium representative scrambled back to his SUV, mud spraying over his pristine windows as he sped off. The workers erupted, a raw, guttural roar of triumph echoing across the riverbanks. But the story wasn't over. The bridge was complete, the vultures driven off, but the ultimate test, the ceremonial first step, was still ahead. And Traore had one final surprise that no protocol could contain. Something that would bring the nation to a standstill. Sunrise over Cambole no longer revealed desperation. It revealed celebration. The air was electric, thick with the scent of roasting meat, drums pounding a rhythm that made hearts pound in unison. Thousands lined the riverbanks, faces beaming, eyes glistening. Not to mourn, but to witness a miracle. The international press was present, cameras poised for the usual photo op. They expected the president in a suit, cutting a ribbon, waving, and driving off in a limo. But Ibrahim Traoré had other plans. He stood at the bridge entrance, fatigues on, boots caked in mud, holding ceremonial scissors. The crowd hushed, sensing the moment's weight. His eyes scanned the front row until they landed on a small, nervous figure in a clean, oversized shirt. Kofi, the crowd murmured. Who, a 10-year-old boy, could take the first step across a bridge built with steel, sweat, and sacrifice? Traore knelt, just as he had in the mud that day of tragedy. He placed the scissors in Kofi's hands. This bridge was built on the memory of what you lost, he said, voice strong and resonant, carrying across the river. It's only right that you take the first step toward the future. Kofi's hands trembled. The scissors felt impossibly heavy, the moment impossibly vast. Yet he did not falter. With a snap that echoed across the water, the red, yellow, and green ribbon fell away. A collective cheer erupted, a sound so pure it seemed to lift the morning mist off the river. The villagers shouted, laughed, and cried. All at once, Traore rose, his gaze sweeping over the bridge, the crowd, and the river beyond. He knew that leadership was more than plans and permits. It was about courage, justice, and lifting others with you. Kofi stepped forward, the first human to cross the bridge, each footfall a promise. No child, no family, no dream would ever be trapped by fear or corruption again. The people followed one by one. Soldiers, farmers, women, children. Every hand had touched this bridge, and every foot had a right to walk it freely. The international press captured it all, but their lenses could not fully contain the story. A nation choosing heart over profit, courage over compliance, people over bureaucracy. Traore stood back, watching. His mission was complete, but the lesson was just beginning. The bridge wasn't just steel and concrete. It was a testament to human resilience, leadership with compassion, and the unstoppable power of a united community. Kofi reached the other side, eyes wide, heart racing, but smiling. He turned to look back at the man who had never left his side. Traore gave a nod, a silent, proud acknowledgement. In that moment, the Mahoon River, once a monster, became a symbol, a witness to the courage of one man, the unity of a village, and the triumph of principles over profit, humanity over greed. The bridge had changed everything, not just for Cambole, not just for Kofi, but for a nation watching and learning that true leadership doesn't sit behind a desk. It stands in the mud, side by side with those it serves. And as the sun climbed higher, lighting the bridge, the people, and the river alike, one truth became undeniable. Dreams built with courage are unbreakable. Traore looked out across the horizon, voice soft but full of promise. This is just the beginning. Together we will build more than bridges. We will build a future. The camera pans upward. The bridge glistening under the morning sun, thousands of cheering villagers on either side, Kofi standing tall in the center, and Traore watching over them. A figure of strength, compassion, and unstoppable resolve. The Mahoon River continued to flow beneath, carrying stories of struggle, hope, and triumph downstream for generations to come. And somewhere in that flowing water, the echoes of a nation reminded the world. Courage is contagious. Hope is unstoppable. And when people lead with heart, no storm, no suit, no system, no fear can ever wash it away. Traore didn't walk first. He stepped back. Every eye was on Kofi, and the boy, small but unbroken, took the first step onto the concrete bridge. Step by step, he moved forward, the sunlight glinting off wet steel and the morning mist swirling around him. He reached the exact middle of the bridge, the deepest part, where the Mahoon River had once raged the strongest, where currents had stolen lives and hope alike. Kofi stopped. He looked over the railing at the water flowing calmly below, its fury tamed by human courage and resolve. He pulled a single white flower from his pocket, the same flower he had clutched during the first days of tragedy, and gently dropped it into the river. It floated away, a quiet tribute. He didn't cry. He smiled. And then the roar of the crowd erupted, drowning out even the river's sound. Thousands of voices, hands waving, drums beating. a celebration not just of a bridge, but of a miracle born from courage, unity, and relentless will. In the weeks that followed, life changed instantly. Trucks loaded with onions and cotton rolled safely across in minutes, where before it had taken hours of danger. A clinic opened in Cambole. Doctors could commute safely. School attendance soared because children no longer had to risk their lives to learn. Economists who had called it impossible now wrote glowing case studies on the Traore model. But for the people of the Sahel, it wasn't theory. It was proof. Proof that determination can bend reality. Traore closed the ceremony standing at the bridge's entrance, looking at the crowd, at Kofi, at the river, and at the bridge that had changed everything. His voice carried across the banks. They told us we needed their money. We showed them we only needed our will. This isn't just steel and concrete. It is a message to every African child. You are not a victim of geography. You are the architect of your destiny. The crowd erupted again. Mothers, fathers, soldiers, farmers, children. They cheered for themselves, for Kofi, for the future they had fought for together. This bridge wasn't just a structure. It was a monument to courage meeting leadership, to people refusing to accept limits, to a community rising above despair. Proved that when a people decide to rise, no storm, no bank, no river can hold them back. If this story inspired you, if it reminded you that the impossible is only a word for those too scared to act, take action. Subscribe. Share this story. Join the Ibrahim Traoré Nation. Because this is only the beginning. There are millions more bridges to build, both in concrete and in courage. Traoré stepped back, watching Kofi lead the people across the bridge. Sunlight glinted off steel and water alike, reflecting hope, resilience, and the undeniable truth. Change is possible when heart meets action. Thank you for believing. Thank you for watching. And remember, your courage today builds the bridges of tomorrow.